So I would like to talk to you on the subject, how to be a real success. You see, if I could walk into your life right now, if we were just able to be together, and if I ask each one of you if you wanted to be successful, every one of you, you'd raise your hands and say, yeah, John, I want to be successful. But if I stop for a moment and ask you to define success, here's what I know. If we have a group of 100 people and ask that question, there would be at least 20, 25 different definitions of success. So when I'm talking to you today about how to be a real success, I don't want to assume that your definition perhaps is different than mine. We kind of want to get on the same page. So let me share with you, in teaching this lecture today, let me share with you what I think success is. I've worked very hard all my life to just come up with a definition of success that would be for everyone and would be lasting, and I think I have one. So I'm going to share it with you and see how it fits you, okay? You see, I think success is about three things. And I'm going to talk to you about those three things as a foundation for then the four things that you need to do to be a real success. I think, first of all, success is knowing my purpose in life. I think it begins right there. It's been said there are two great days in a leader's life, the day they were born and then the day they discovered why. Well, all of us had a day of birth, no doubt about that. But not all of us have had a day where we discovered our why. Why are we here on earth? And so people come to me all the time and they say, John, help me out. Help me discover my purpose in life. And I've really worked hard at doing that. And let's see if I can help you. I hope I can. That certainly is my goal for sure. I think to have a purpose path, there are two things that you have to consider. First of all, what is your passion? So whenever I put people on a purpose path, I say as you start taking this journey, look at yourself and ask yourself, what am I passionate about? Because passion is the great energizer. Passion energizes us. And whenever I see someone that is passionate, I know they're full of energy. I've never met a passionate person that lacked energy, just like I've never known a person who lacked passion that had energy. Passion and energy go together. When you have passion, you have energy. We hear often people talk about the fact, they're a high energy person, or they're a low energy person. And whenever they say that, I say, well, that's true. But another way to put it is they're a high passionate person, which gives them energy, or they're a low passionate person, which causes them to lack energy. So when I send you down this passion path to discover your purpose, I want to be real honest with you. It's not 100% accurate. It's about 70% accurate. And the reason I say that is because I know people that are very passionate about something, but they're not good at it, okay? When I was a kid, I was passionate about basketball, and I played basketball in high school, and I played basketball in college, but guess what? I wasn't going to play basketball in the NBA. I was passionate, full of passion, but that I wasn't skilled enough. I didn't have a strength to get to that level. In fact, when I hear people talk about follow your passion in life, I say, I want you to follow your passion in life, but I want you to understand that if it's not in an area of your strength, it's really not your purpose, and you won't excel in it. In fact, I tell people, if you're passionate about something that you're not really good at, make it a hobby, not a career. I think that's good advice. I think there are things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about golf, but I'm never going to be on the PGA Tour. But I still like to play golf. It's not a career for me. It's not a make or break, life or death. I don't have to play good golf to make money. In fact, when I play golf with guys and they kind of are upset with themselves and complaining, I look at them, I say, well, is this your livelihood? Well, of course not. It's not my life. Well, then relax, take a pill, okay? It's not going to make much of a difference. But passion is a wonderful thing because if you can do what you love, it has an energizing, sustaining part of it that allows us to carry on when others quit or give up. I can remember doing a conference, and it was a very successful conference, a couple thousand people there. I was teaching leadership all day. And it was toward the end of the day, I was in my last book signing session. And a young man came up to me and he said, "Oh, I've loved what you're doing today. And I've got my future in front of me." And he said, "I've decided that I'm going to do what you do. I want to do what you do." Well, I said, "That's great. Congratulations." I said, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." He was very eager and he kind of leaned into me. I said, "The question's this. Would you like to do what I did so you can do what I do?" Now that's the question. Would you like to do what I did so you can do what I do? You see, we see people when they're excellent and they're successful and they're doing great things and say, "I want to do that." What you don't understand is there's a process to get to do that. You've got to did it before you do it. And there's a whole bunch of people, they want to skip the did in life. They don't want to did it, they want to do it. And can I tell you something? If you if you didn't did it, you won't do it. In fact, if you don't did it, you're in deep doo-doo, okay? Don't go into do without did. And passion gets you into the did successfully and keeps you going. And so people that did what I did to do what I do, they did it because they were passionate about it and it kept them in the game. That's an absolute fact. So when people say I'm discovering and looking for my purpose, I say, well, what are you passionate about? It's not 100% accurate, but it's about 70% accurate. It's a great place to start. But the second part of this path towards your purpose journey is 100% accurate, I promise you. You see, you not only ask yourself, what am I passionate about? You need to ask yourself, what am I good at? In other words, what is my natural strength zone? This is an accurate assessment. And the reason it's an accurate assessment of your purpose is because God created you for a purpose. And with that purpose that He created you, He gave you gifts to accomplish that purpose in your life. I love this. So don't miss this, okay? He gave you gifts to accomplish your purpose. In fact, I tell people all the time, work on your strengths. If you really want to be successful, work on your strengths, not on your weaknesses. Now, we were taught in school to work on our weaknesses. I mean, I can think back at all of my school days. If I got an A in math and a C in English, they'd say, well, work more on your English. Well, the reason I got an A in math is I had a math kind of giftedness more than a language giftedness. I say, don't work on your weaknesses, work on your strengths. Now let me explain why. You see, in the area of giftedness, strengths, and abilities, from a 1 to a 10, you can only improve yourself 2, possibly 3 numbers. So let's say I work on a weaknesses. I'm just not very good at something. Let's say I'm a 2. That's not very good out of a 10. So I said, well, I've got to get that. I've got to raise my number. So I work really hard. And let's say I'm really good at raising my weak area. And I go from a 2 to 3 to a 4. Maybe, not for sure, but maybe I even get to a 5. Now, guess what I've accomplished? I've accomplished average. 5 out of 10 isn't going to get me anywhere special at all. Average is average. And if you work on your weaknesses at best, when you finish, even if you excel, you're just average, and people don't pay for average. I don't pay for average. You don't pay for average. When you're hungry, you don't look at your friend and say, let's go to an average restaurant. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? There's nothing appealing about average. I mean, except probably you can get a table in an average restaurant because nobody else is there. But you don't go to that average restaurant and ask the host or the hostess to to seat you at an average table. Say, I don't want your best table, the one by the window overlooks the water. Give me an average table, and then send me an average waiter. When the average waiter comes to the average table at an average restaurant, you don't say, now, what's average here? And she said, well, I wanted to give you what, our specials? No, I don't want specials. So is there something very few people ever order? Come on. Now, that average restaurant that gave you the average table, they gave you the average waiter or waitress who now is giving you the average food. And by the way, when you're done with that average experience, you don't leave all excited and pumped and, oh my gosh, that's amazing. We got to come back to average again. No. The reason you have to discover your strengths and work on them. Let's say, for example, that I'm above average. I'm already a 6. Okay. Work on that 6. Here's what happens. If I'm already a 6, if I work on that, I could become a 7. Oh my gosh, I could become an 8. Now, we're starting to get somewhere when I'm an 8. And maybe I could become a 9. Now, let me tell you something. When you become people stand in line for 9s. When you get in that top 10%, now all of a sudden, you're going to be highly successful in life. So what I'm saying to you, very simple, is if you want to find your purpose, look at your passion. It's correct a lot of times, not every time. But if your passion matches your strengths, oh my goodness, then you're going to be absolutely amazing. I can tell you for a fact that that's exactly what I discovered because I have a degree in counseling, and in my first few years of work, I did a lot of counseling. The good news is I had a degree in it. The bad news is I wasn't any good. Counseling wore me out. People's problems just kind of caused me to get real exhausted. And because I don't have great gifts of mercy, when they would come in and share with me the problem, I would say, oh my gosh, I can help you fix that. And here's 1, 2, 3. I'd write on the paper and tear off the paper and say, here, go be healed, And then I'd find out the next month they'd come back for another counseling session. I thought, oh my gosh, I thought I fixed them. I guess I didn't fix them. Here we go again. I was a terrible counselor. I'm not even sure when people finished with me in their counseling session that I helped them at all. In fact, I have a feeling they probably left my place and went to find another counselor that could help them. I wasn't any good at it. One day, I discovered that I was good at equipping. Now, equipping is opposite of counseling. Counseling is when I spend time with you and we're working on one of your weaknesses. Equipping is when we spend time together and I work on one of your strengths. I found I was really good at helping people with their strengths. I was really bad at helping people with their weaknesses. So I stopped counseling. Why? Because I was never going to be a great counselor because that wasn't where I was gifted. I started equipping, and I'm now known as one of the top equippers in the world. We've literally equipped over 5 million leaders in every country of the world. We've got equipping down. That's what we do with our John Maxwell team. People like Phil, we're equipping them, certifying them to be John Maxwell team coaches and do great things for other people. So if you want to be successful, you've got to ask yourself, first of all, what is my purpose in life? And you find your purpose through passion. You find your purpose through strengths. The second part of success, it's not only knowing my purpose in life, secondly, it's growing to my maximum potential. Success is the ability to develop and grow myself to become the best I can possibly be. You see, the only guarantee that you and I have that tomorrow is going to be better than today is that we're growing today. My life was changed in the 20s when my mentor asked me if I had a personal plan for growth, of which I did not. And he said to me, John, growth is not automatic. And I began to be intentional in my personal growth. I wrote a book called The 15 Laws of Growth. I would encourage you, if you don't have it, to get it. Because those 15 laws will teach you how to develop yourself and be a personal success in the area of your growth. You see, I also learned that the secret of my success is what I do daily. And this is what's incredible. In fact, I wrote another book called Make Today Count. And that's all about how to make the best of today so that you can guarantee that your future is going to be better. You see, when I wrote that book, Make Today Count, I knew that we over-exaggerate yesterday, we overestimate tomorrow, but we underestimate today. And so I teach a lot about the power of consistency, that consistency compounds, because that's exactly what consistency does. It compounds in your life and it compounds in my life. Wow. And when you personally grow, trust me, there is a fulfillment and satisfaction in your life and a capacity to grow more, because what does growth do? It increases capacity. See, I'm 73, and my capacity to grow is humongous because for 50 years, I've had a personal plan for growth within my life. I was speaking at a conference, and I had a gentleman come up at the end of the conference, and he said, "This was life-changing, John." Well, he said, "What you shared today was life-changing." And then he said, "I wish I could have heard you 25 years ago." And I smiled, and I said, no, you don't. He said, "Oh, no, yes, I do." He said, "I wish I could have heard you 25 years ago. Trust me." I said, no, you have to trust me. You don't want to have heard me 25 years ago. Now he's leaning into me. He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The things you've shared with me are life-changing." He said, "If I could have heard this stuff 25 years ago, think how further I'd be down the road." And I smiled and I said, "If you'd heard me 25 years ago, you wouldn't have heard these things you heard today." I'm growing. I'm learning. I didn't come out of my mother's womb with the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. My personal growth has allowed me to every day get better, increase, expand, improve. And that's what I want for you. And success, it's a progressive realization of your potential. And the way that you have progressive realization of your potential is each day commit yourself to personal growth. So success is knowing my purpose in life. It's growing to my maximum potential. Wow, this is huge. But it's one more thing. It's sowing seeds that benefit others. If there is a miss in success, it's over this third area. I think most people understand that with success, you've got to discover your purpose. I think people mostly understand that with success, you have to personally grow and develop. But I think when it comes to sowing seeds that benefit others, I think this is a big miss, because I think most people think of, instead of sowing seeds to benefit others, they think of reaping a harvest to benefit themselves.
I've got to get into one more segment of content before we run out of time, because you talk about the 3 C's to success. And I can give you the 3 C's because it was profound to me. It was very helpful. But I'm going to let you give the 3 C's. Talk a little bit about that. Unpack it for us.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. So the first C is confidence. So it's a success loop. They loop together like this. You can spin these, they loop. And you'll notice you can create momentum with these. It's a success loop, the 3C success loop. So the first one is confidence. The foundation of your success is believing in yourself. It's hard to get everyone else to believe in you if you won't even believe in you. It's hard to get everyone else to see what you see if you won't even see success in you. So you want to say to yourself, I've been through some hard things. I've overcome some challenges. Like, I have some confidence in myself. When my spouse looks across me at the room and says, with her eyes, "I love you. Thanks for providing a great life for me. I appreciate you." There's reasons you should have confidence. That should give you confidence. When your children tell you, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, I love you." When the teams that you build and that you lead, these organizations that you lead, when they say, "Hey, thank you so much for the great work you do, the value you provide," that should reinforce the confidence that you should have in yourself. So the foundation of your success is believing in yourself. Number 2 is commitment. Where there is no confidence, there is no commitment. Think about it this way. How committed are we to things we have no confidence in? So it's like, I know my confidence level is a 0% we're going to win. Well, I'm not that committed to this. And my friends, there's no lukewarm winners. You're either in or you're out. And if you're going to be in, be all in. If you're going to be out, be all out. Zig Ziglar once said, most people have the commitment level of a kamikaze pilot on their 47th mission. I mean, the point is they're just kind of in, then out, then in. Build the confidence. I'm going to go for it. I believe in myself. And then get fully committed. Go all in. And then the commitment leads to competence. So what is competence? Competence is our skill sets. Competence is improving, growing. One of the reasons I love John and one of the reasons I love you listening to John, because you and I are kindred souls, our commitment to want to grow. Yeah. And what growing is we're building skills above our talent. Your talent's your floor, your skills are your ceiling. And I use the example in the book about Michael Jordan. So my brother and I was doing a personal development event in Orlando. This is last year. It's in September. My brother calls me, he says, "Are you still in Florida?" I said, "Yeah, I was in Miami." I was in Miami, not Orlando. I'm sorry. I was in Miami. And he says to me, "Come over to Tampa for the Florida to Gainesville, the Florida Gators, the Swamp." Yeah. And he said, "I'll meet you there because my beloved University of Utah Utes were playing there." So we go to the game. My assistant buys us tickets, and she gets us literally front row, 50-yard line on the Gator side, right on the Florida side. So they call it the Swamp, and this place is an iconic, place. So one of the things that hit me though, is I'm there enjoying the game, is the Florida team, and I'm talking trainers, coaches, players. They all have the Jumpman logo, the Michael Jordan Jumpman logo. So on their shoulder pads, on their pants, on their towels, on their shoes, and their shoes are cleats. And I just thought to myself, how interesting is this? Jordan played basketball, not football. Jordan was known for his professional prowess, not college prowess necessarily. Jordan played 30 years ago. Here's all these kids, and it's cool to wear the Jumpman logo. And I thought, why? It's because Jordan is the GOAT. What made him the GOAT, the greatest of all time? That he built skill above the talent. He was very talented. He could jump. He was quick. He could run, the whole thing. But he didn't rely on talent. He built the skills. He's one of the most fundamentally sound players ever. He was all defense and all offense. He built all these new skills above the talent. As leaders, we have to do the same thing. It's one of the reasons I loved what John teaches. John provides, John Maxwell coaching and so on. Why? Because it builds new skills. So we don't just have to rely on our baseline talent. Now, what happens when our competency increases? Well, man, the more competent we become, the more confident we become. The more confident we become, more committed we become. More committed we become, more competent, and we just starts to spin the loop. So let me ask one last question before I'll throw it back to you, Mark, on this one. What do you do if today you're not feeling a lot of confidence? Like, you're like, hey, that all makes sense to me, but I'm having a hard time believing in myself right now. Okay. It's still a C word. I'll give you kind of a bonus C word, and it's courage. My friends, lean into your courage. Your courage precedes confidence. Courage is taking the step when you don't have a lot of confidence, you know what to do. Courage is starting the business when you're not totally confident that it's going to pan out. Courage is saying, I'm sorry or I love you when you're not sure how this one's going to work, right? That's courage. Your courage precedes the confidence. You lean into courage, and that will build to where you can get into the success loop of my confidence builds my commitment, which leads to my competence, which leads to more confidence, and you start to spin it. But today, your home needs more courage. Your business needs more courage. Your team needs a leader with courage. Our country needs more people that have courage. So lean today into your courage if you don't yet feel that strength in your confidence.
Well, in the 1980s, I just saw a lot of leaders kind of messing their lives up, and yet they were very successful. And so I did a little time out and asked myself, what am I chasing? There's nothing worse than climbing the ladder of success, and when you get to the top, finding out that it's leaning up against the wrong building. And I know a lot of people that they haven't built their life out of values. And they one day wake up and say, I'm at the top. That's the good news. The bad news, I'm leaning against the wrong building. I'm not where I wanted to go. So in my life, in the process of all of this in the area of values, Pat, you asked me something. I'm so sorry. What was the question?
The definition.
Success. So when in my life, I began to ask myself, what is success to me? And I came up with this definition that really works for me, and that is success is having the people who know me the best love and respect me the most. I think that's success. Because, I write books, but I could fake it out there, I guess. I speak on platforms to a lot of people. I guess I could fake it there. But you can't fake it at home. You can't fake it with your children. You can't fake it with the people who really know you. And when the people who know you the best love and respect you the most, I think that's a major statement upon who you are, what your character is, and you can go bank on that kind of a person. So that became my definition of success, still is. So for what is it, maybe, almost 40 years, that's just kind of how I mean, success certainly I don't think is writing a lot of books or selling. I mean, I think we go after, the what we would call recognition of success, and don't understand that the core of success again is I think based on values and who you are as a person. I think that's more important than anything else. So the question is, not only do I grow, but what do I grow in? And what I grow in is what I call the big picture. I think there are 4 things that allow people to be successful. And I think these 4 things you've got to be good at. You've got to be good at relationships. In other words, you've got to connect with people. People won't go along with you if they can't get along with you. You just got to be good with relationships. You've got to be good with equipping people. You've got to know how to train and develop people, because you can't compound anything in your life unless you get somebody else to do it with you. So all compounding is in training and equipping. You got to be good in attitude, because attitude, if it's good, will let you overcome adversity, which everyone has, and if it's bad, it'll let adversity overcome you. And you got to be good in leadership. You got to be able to influence more people. Now, I think those 4 things you just got to be good at, regardless of what your profession is, what your calling is, what your career is. You better be good with relationships, you better be good with equipping, you better be good with attitude, and you better be good with leadership. At age 25, I decided those were the 4 keys to continuous success in a person's life. And then, when I started writing books, I said, I'll write about those 4 things all the time. If it's a John Maxwell book, it's in those areas right there, because that's the key to people's success. What keeps people buying my books is I'm constantly writing about something that will make them better. And it works for them. Now, you take those 4 things, plus take your giftedness or your strengths. You ought to grow in that area. Whatever you're gifted in. For example, I'm gifted in communication, so I read a lot of books on communication. So whatever your strength is, you want to, but your growth has to be focused on those 4 or 5 things in your life. Now, it doesn't mean you can't grow in any other thing. It just means your greatest return for growth will be if you stay in those sweet spots. And then you need to measure your growth, because what gets measured gets done. And so every year at the end of the year, I ask myself, how well did I do in this area? Am I getting better? Am I growing? Am I developing myself? How can I measure that? And then how can I apply what I'm learning? Because the moment that I learn something, the question I have is, how can I now apply that to my life, and how can I pass it on to the people that are on my team? That's how a leader thinks. How do I apply it to me? How do I pass it on to my people? That's why I'm so excited about you being here, because you all represent hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. And everything that you're learning, you're saying, okay, here's how I apply this to me. This is how I work in my life. How do I apply it to the people on my team? And that's what we're here for, to help you do. We're here to help resource you to not only learn these principles yourself, but to learn it for your people. And then after I do all of that, I become intentional in the following things. Number one is I make growth my number one priority in my life. A day without growing is unacceptable to me. So I'm conscious of my need 24/7 to grow. And I'm constantly doing it. Number two, I look for growth opportunities in every situation. I not only make it my number one priority, But I ask myself, okay, what kind of growth opportunities are around me? Have I taken advantage of growth opportunities? Growth conversations. Number 3, I ask questions that will help me grow. Growth doesn't come looking for me. I have got to be proactive. So I ask questions all the time about growth. And I'm asking, if I'm with you, I'm going to ask you, what are you reading? Who are you talking to? What experiences has caused you to grow? I'm just asking you questions all the time. I'll drive you crazy with questions. The last time Jim Collins and I got together, we were speaking at the same convention out in Las Vegas. We were having lunch, and he sat down, and I sat down, and I kid you not. We sat down, and we looked at each other, and we both pulled out our card. It was like quick draw McGraw here. And we just leaned forward because we knew. We had an hour and 15 minutes. We were going to cut all the other stuff out. He had questions asked me, I had questions asked him, and I threw out the first question. He said, that's not fair. He said, I have questions. I said, but I was first. So I get the first question. And we went back and forth, question. Why did we do that? Because Jim Collins and I know something. The only growing we're going to do isn't talking about where we've been, what we've done, who we know. Are you not tired of all that stuff? The only growing we're going to do is asking questions to the other person and learning from that person. Everything I've learned has become a result of a question, not a result of an answer. So you got to constantly have this curious mind to ask questions. So I ask questions that will help me grow. I file what I learn every day. Every day I take what I'm learning and I file it in my iPhone. I put categories on it and I put it in there, what I'm learning and how I'm growing. And I make sure as soon as I learn something from you, I put it in my iPhone immediately. Because the number one time waster is looking for things that are lost. And you know why you lost them? You didn't have a place to put them in the first place. So my systems give me the place to put things so I don't lose them, so that I can go back to them and I can learn from them and I can grow from it. And then I pass on to others every day. I pass on to others what I'm learning. I can hardly wait to tell somebody else, because every time I pass on to others what I've just learned, it reinforces the learning in me. And it allows me to kind of put that just a little stronger in my life, that impression just a little bit deeper in my life. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up by, I love this. Some parents of a little girl named Elizabeth Dodd, who was age 9. Her parents would listen to my teachings. They had video programs, and they were always listening, reading my books. And so their 9-year-old daughter was just kind of hanging with them and picking up this stuff. And so this was written by Elizabeth Dodd, who's age 9. She said, John Maxwell says, always work on yourself more than others. He also says, always work on yourself before you work on others. I say, hey, he's right. Because if you work on others before yourself, you won't know what you're doing. Elizabeth Dodd, age 9. I thought, the kid gets it. The kid gets it. I hope we get it today. I hope we get it. People know me for leadership, but I'm passionate for growth. And the reason I'm passionate for growth is if you're going to develop the leader within you, trust me, it's going to be because you want to get better every day. And what's so beautiful is if you'll do this, in 1 year, to be honest with you, you won't recognize yourself. You'll have to reintroduce yourself to yourself. And you're going to have to say, I'm amazed how much you've grown in a year. What keeps me young is my passion to grow. I just don't have time to die. And it's so good, I don't want to die. That's what I want for you.
We're going to talk about decisions today. We're going to talk about New Year's decisions that you can think about, that you can make, that'll help you this year. So before we get started, I'd love for you to go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. And as you think about the year 24 and as we move forward, if there's a way that we can help you in executive coaching or facilitation around content, we would love to do that. Well, as we reflect on the year past, we all go through this. We all do it. It's a great exercise to do. You know, we think about what went well, what could we have done better, what did we learn? So all of these lead to then decisions that you have to make. And you're the master behind all this content that we create here. So obviously you've been thinking about some decisions that are on your heart that you wanted to kind of bring a lesson that maybe you've gone through recently over the last couple of weeks as you prepare for 2024. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this one's personal. A bit is that, thinking about, are you going to make New Year's resolutions? Are you going to set goals? I'm a big fan of goals and that sort of thing. But over the last couple of months, I started recognizing in me that, I think I have the best intentions about what I'm going to do and my goal and what I'm trying to accomplish. But I realized that I'm waking. I'll give you an example. Saying, are you going to work out today? And I'm thinking, if I wait until today to make that decision, and I wake up and I get up early and it's cold and it's dark and it's a chance of rain, I tend to make a decision in the moment based on all the circumstances. Yeah. And then this was just about 6 weeks ago. I remember this teaching from John. It's quite a bit in the past, but it really resonated with me then. But I completely pushed it out of my mind. And the teaching was: decide once, manage daily. Mm-hmm. Decide the big things that you're going to do, and then manage it. You can't make the decision in the day, in the moment. I can't make the decision to work out at 5 a.m. when it's dark and cold and rainy. I need to have made that decision in advance and then manage it today when it's dark and cold and rainy. Same thing I was sharing with you. We travel, and I'm thinking I'm going to eat salads with, Caesar salad with chicken, and then I've had a tough day. It's been a hard week. I'm on the road, and I get into the restaurant, and now I'm choosing poor choices.
You're looking at the dessert menu.
I'm thinking, bring me the apple pie, then I'll make a decision on the rest of the menu. Yeah. And because what am I comforting myself? Yeah. Whatever. Decide once. If I've decided once I'm going to eat a certain kind of diet, then I can manage it daily. And so no matter how I feel, I've already made the decision. I just need to figure out how I'm going to manage it today based on everything that's going on, all the circumstances, the ups, the downs, the sideways. I just need to manage it. I'm going to manage my, these decisions I need to make. So I thought, first of all, I'll get your thought on that, because I know you've been around John a lot and know this teaching, but also maybe we could look at, in the new year, what are some decisions leaders need to be thinking about that we can make once and then manage them daily throughout the year?
I love that. You mentioned about just being on the road and traveling, right? Mm. What I've noticed is that if I don't do this, if I don't make that decision and then have a plan to manage it, man, when we get tired in everything in life, that's when the guard goes down and you're just like, yeah, you know what? I told myself I wasn't going to open the menu, but now we're going to see what do they have. And so I love that, right? Because I think not only, when you got the energy in your A game, you're like, good, I got this. I made this decision. But when you get tired, you got to have something in place that you can manage that.
I'm laughing because you and I were traveling together about, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and you had made a decision that you were going to fast.
Yeah.
But we were with a client, and they were getting all this stuff ready, had all these snacks. They even put you in an office with mounds and mounds of snacks. And they brought in these custom handmade donuts, and they like everything within your face. And I was so proud of you because you'd made a decision.
I did.
And then you managed it through the day, unless there's something I didn't see.
Nope.
But you managed it through that day to honor the decision you'd already made.
Yeah.
That's podcast over.
There you go. That's it. Drop the mic. We're out. Have a good year. No, I'm just kidding. Well, yeah, let me come back to what you said about John, because John is big about this. John is he calls himself a boring guy. He's like, no, I know what I'm going to be doing, right? And I do it every day. And that's what he says. The secret to your success is determined by your daily agenda. I'll never forget, I've heard him say, if I've heard him say it once, I've heard him say it thousands of times. If I could just spend one day with you, I could tell right away whether or not you'd be a successful person. And what does that daily agenda look like? Because how are you managing your time? How are you managing your choices? And so you got to do it on a daily basis. The other thing I love about what he says that successful people make the right decisions early. They make them early, they make them quick, and then they manage them. So he has this thing called the Daily Dozen. You may, if you're a Maxwellian, as we call you, and you're familiar with John's content, the Daily Dozen is 12 areas that really focus on one's daily routine. Some of them are around attitudes and attitude, priorities, health, family, finances, faith. But we're going to talk a little bit about that and the decisions you make as we go forward.
He really talks about this, making the decision once. I thought, could we look at some areas that might increase our effectiveness as leaders and learn to decide once what it is we want to do in those areas, and then manage daily. The 3 areas I just picked out, I'm kind of being, again, a little selfish. This is things I'm looking at me going forward, but I think it applies to all of us, is areas for consideration about you personally. So decisions you need to make about you, about your team, areas that you need to make, decisions you need to make, and maybe about your business. So I'll throw them out and maybe get your feedback on them. But one of the decisions I made under thinking about me was about what do I need to decide about my personal growth. And in the new year, I can't decide, when I get up in the morning, am I going to spend a few minutes I need to decide once and then manage it daily. But what's your thought on deciding once about personal growth?
Yeah, I think what I love about this is, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about this, because I learned this from you in the irreducible minimums. And I know that even an example with your son or someone that is not necessarily motivated every day by personal growth, but know that we want to grow, so let's manage that decision. Talk just quickly, for those that haven't listened to us, we've done an episode on this in the past, just talk about irreducible minimum and what that means.
Yeah, the learning was, and I got this for myself first, but then trying to encourage my son on some growth that he was doing, that he needed to do. I said, what are you reading? I don't have time to read. And I thought that sounded like me. And so the irreducible minimum idea is, what's the minimum you could do in an area that you want to grow in that cannot be reduced, the minimum that cannot be reduced, irreducible minimum. And the idea is that I found for myself, I love to set big goals. Tell you what, I'm going to read 12 books in 2024. Well, that's a big leap if you're reading 0 to get to 12. So instead of making a goal that's so large you probably won't do it, set a goal that's so small you'd be embarrassed not to do it. And so instead of having 12 books, I'm going to say, could I read 2 pages a day, every day? And the magic of this is the everyday. And as John would teach, that it's consistency that compounds over time.
Yeah.
My life motto became small things done daily, consistently, over time, remarkable results. Small things done daily, consistently, over time, remarkable results. So if you can figure out what the small things you could do, just decide, I'm going to do 15 minutes. I'm going to manage it tomorrow. 15 minutes, I'm going to read something. But personally, I'm going to read something for business, and I'm going to write something. For me, that was kind of mine.
I love that. No, and do it in a way, by the way, that fits your wiring. Right? Let me say this, right? Some people are like, I'm going to get up at 5 every morning and I'm going to work out, or I'm going to do my 15 minutes. You might not do that if you're a night person versus a morning person, right? And my wife and I have this conversation. I'm a morning person, but I'm worthless after 10 o'clock, right? She is a night person, gets a lot of stuff done, but doesn't do well in the mornings. And so we talk about this as your personal growth. Like, when do you schedule it in the day? You schedule in the day that it fits your wiring in order to continue to have success.
Another decision, I think, for you on the topic of that you need to make once and manage daily is this idea about your physical fitness, your health. I know you've made some commitments on that and you're following that as a regimen. This is one of the comfort areas. I had a knee surgery this year, and it's kind of set me back, and I've let that be a circumstance that I could still. Now I'm making it every day when I get up. Well, my knee hurt today. No, I need to have made it once just to manage it within the fact that my knee is hurt. It's cold, dark, and rainy. How am I going to handle today's physical fitness? But your thoughts?
I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with an executive, and we were talking about this. I saw his personal board as I went into it was awesome, right in his office. He's like, here's my family and my family and personal goals for this year, which was, last year. And one of them was, weight loss, and he was tracking it. And he just has it out there for everybody. I was like, tell me about that. So we started talking, and he's like, he said, I decided that I wanted to make a decision, and then I needed to walk every single day. And I know you tracking your steps and all this kind of stuff. And he said, man, what I found was the commitment that I made to this, then I had more energy. It reduced my stress, right? But I had to have it scripted, and I had to have a plan so I could manage when I was tired. And the plan was this: in the world of all of these Zoom meetings, he tried to get out as many Zoom meetings as he possibly could, and went back to the good old-fashioned phone.
Uh-oh.
And he would put his headphones on, and he would walk in all of his meetings.
Right.
The day his greatest steps he had was 52,450 steps. And I was like, say that number again. I think the most I've ever had is in the 20s. And that's probably when I was on vacation, right? Doing a tour. And so he's like, yeah, no, I made a decision that any meetings that I can move. And when I have those meetings, that's my trigger. That's how I manage. I get up and I go walk. And he said, if the weather's bad outside, I get on my treadmill and I walk. And so he's like, I don't feel like it every day, which leads me to this phrase that I've used and have lived by for a while. With my kids, even with me, it's like, hey, you can't feel your way into acting. So back to this example, I can't feel my way into going, oh, okay, I have a meeting where I am on the phone. I'm going to go walk. No, you'd already made that decision. And so what you got to do is make sure you act on how you manage that. And then, oh, by the way, once you get started, and you know this, once you get started walking around, man, I feel like this is great. I want to keep doing that. So anyways, absolutely need to figure out how to do that.
Let's move the topic to things about leading your team and are the decisions you need to make once and manage daily. The first one I would throw out would be determining proper priorities for the team and for yourself. But if you're not clear on what the priority, decide once what the priorities are and then manage daily how to execute those priorities. I get in trouble when I wake up and start to think, well, what's important today? I need to already know what's important today and then manage it today.
Yeah. When it comes to this, I will sometimes use percentages of time. Sometimes I'll use lists. But none of this happens. Let me back up just a minute. None of this happens unless you're being very intentional about meeting and connecting and communicating with your team. And so what I want to encourage everybody is, as you look through this, is to make sure that you guys have proper alignment in your priorities, is to communicate them back and forth periodically. Hey, what do you think your top 3 priorities are? Hey, what percentage of time are you spending on this? We have an initiative right now at Maxwell Leadership where one of the things, it's a big priority for us. And so my mantra is 70% of your time should be thinking about, implementing, or whatever around this idea. If it's not, let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk about it, because I want to make sure that we're managing your time and 70% of it is focused on this. And that's kind of the mantra that we're using. And so absolutely, I think it's important when it comes to that.
Decision 4, which would be the second one under managing the team, I think that you should decide once and manage daily how you are going to build relationships and connect with people on your team. I guarantee you, when you wake up in the morning and get to work, you are going to be highly distracted, highly pushed. There's going to be lots of things coming at you. If you haven't decided that connecting and relationships are important and manage it throughout the calendar of the day and the week, it's not going to get done. Yeah. And you're going to end up at the end of a period, a month, a quarter, the year, and figure out why my team is so distant, why I'm not connected. So I need to figure out how I'm going to manage that daily.
One of my things I love to do is talk about college football. And I have a guy on my team who, man, it's just been something that we've done for a long time. We get together and just catch up in college football and whatnot. And because my schedule has kind of gotten a little crazy, we haven't done it. And so I literally looked at my calendar and I was like, okay, that's it. And so I was very intentional about how do I manage this, right? How I manage it, to your point, I'm just going to put it on the calendar. So I found the first available day, put it on the calendar, and I made the decision. I needed to re-engage. I needed to re-engage around that. We have a lot of fun doing it. And so in order to help me manage that, one of the systems that I put in place is to just go ahead and put it on the calendar and block it out and protect it. So there are little things like that I think you can do, but it's so important to make sure that you're doing that, even with your people things, right? Even with that connecting, just go ahead and schedule it on your calendar. It's great. Even if it's just the management by walking around, right? I know we've shared some leaders that they just don't do well with that. So they put it on their calendar at the certain time, get up for 15 minutes, go walk around, see what's going on. It may be painful for them, but they manage it, and that's how they work through it.
But what's cool is that by you putting it on the calendar, you've already made the decision. Yeah. This is important. Now, could something happen on the day with that? Yes, and you have to but you won't cancel. You'll reschedule because now you're managing it in the day, not trying to decide how am I going to get it into my day. I'm going to manage it in my day because I've already decided it's important. Let's transition to the final one about leading your business. Are there some decisions you could make once, manage daily? One of them I suggested was modeling. How am I going to model the core values of my organization daily? I think this is another one that I get into the rush and hustle of the day, and then I may just run right through some stop signs that my core values would say we shouldn't do. But if I'm clear, I'm committed to, I'm making a decision on the core values, how am I going to manage those in the rush and hustle of my day?
Yeah, remember, what you do speaks so loudly that your team can't even hear what you're saying. And so you need to make sure that you are living those out on a daily basis. One of the things that I try to do is I try to use it in my language.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like one of ours is exceeding expectations. And if I see something, either a team member has done peer-to-peer, or maybe team has done for the client or whatever, I will say, hey, man, I loved when you exceeded expectations right here. Or growth is one of ours. Hey, man, I see so much growth in you. So for me, the way that I go about it daily is try to use our core values in my common language that I use throughout the day. I'll do it in presentations, and I just try to kind of put it in there. I don't always remember what our core values are right off the top of my head. So what do I do to help me with that? I made the decision I want to do this. So I actually have a little card that sits right next to my computer screen that I can see it, that then goes, oh, yeah. No, I said I want to do this, and I'm going to use this in my language. And so let me use this when I communicate to X, Y, and Z, as long as it's authentically tied into something that's happening. But I try to use that in my common language.
Finally, a second one under leading the business, I said that leaders must make a decision to communicate the vision daily or on a regular basis. I think if I try to get into the day and I haven't decided, what is the vision, how am I going to communicate that, it kind of comes haphazard. I'm not clear. And so I think I'm going to decide once. I'm going to really figure out how to communicate the vision, and then manage it daily through the rush of business to get that vision in front of people's eyes and ears.
And let me just add to that, because I think you said it extremely well. Make sure that as you do that, you connect what they're doing to the bigger vision that you're communicating. You're communicating the vision of that team while you're also communicating the vision of the organization, which they should be in alignment. Help them connect those dots. That's the key to that, is making sure that you're thinking about, hey, how does what Jake does right here on our podcast align with the fact that we want to make sure that everyone deserves to be led well? What does that mean, right? It's because we're going out to millions of people because of what they're doing. And so how do you communicate that and then make sure that you tie that together? Well, as we wrap up today, on these decisions, we all have decisions we have to make. And you're listening to this, you've already made some New Year's resolutions, as they call them here. And so you made that decision. You made that choice. Now, how are you going to manage that on a daily basis? Because that's how they end up failing. That's how they end up slipping away. That's how they get to a point to where you and I are on the road and we're tired. And you know what? I'm not having a chicken salad right now. I'm going to have the biggest burger and fries and milkshake that you could possibly have. Little things that we do lead to big things. And as Perry mentioned in just a little while ago, he said from John Maxwell, consistency compounds. And so, we just got to do the little things on a daily basis extremely well.
I have the best of intentions,
yes.
But when I get into the rush of the moment, the hurry of the day, the need for comfort, whatever it is my excuse may be, I've not made that. I'm making decisions on the fly. It's not good.
I want to talk to you about values, and I want to talk to you about legacy. Let me just share with you in the beginning that I am committed to transformation of lives through good values. You see, I've discovered that if people begin to learn good values and they begin to live those values out, honestly, they become more valuable to themselves and they become more valuable to others. I learned that because in 1992, I was writing for Time Warner, and this was the time when corporate America was just sowing bad seeds of distrust. And if you'll remember back then, you that would be old enough, Enron and some of the companies were just not doing very well. In fact, on Time magazine, they said, I think it was 1992, was the summer of distrust. And Time Warner, the publishing company, wanted me to write a book on business ethics. And I shared with them that I couldn't do that. And they asked why. I said, there's no such thing as business ethics. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, there's just ethics. You see, if you have ethics, they work in your business, and they work in your family, and they work in life. There's no such thing as compartmentalizing ethics or any other value. It has to be integrated into our life. And that's one of the things I love about what you're doing. You're integrating values in the lives of other people. Well, I did write that book, and I based it on the Golden Rule. And I based it on the Golden Rule because that's accepted in every religion and every culture in the world. Do unto others, treat others as you want to be treated. But that was life-changing for me because all of a sudden, when we began to teach this value, I began to see the change that it brought in people's lives. And so I began to be committed to teaching values. Now, I have a nonprofit organization, Equip, that's trained 5 million leaders in every country of the world. And after training all of those leaders in a 19-year period, I said, let's now take them from trained leaders to transformational leaders. And how do you produce a transformational leader? By teaching them, having them learn and live out good values. We've been doing that now for the last 9 years. We literally go into different countries. We started with the country of Guatemala, then Paraguay, and then Costa Rica. We're ready to go into 2 other countries. And when I say we go into countries, what we do is we come in only by the invitation of the president of the country, and then we go to the 8 streams of influence, where the influence factor goes through the culture, government, business, religion, media, arts, health, sports, the major influencers. And we get buy-in from the top of those leaders to teach values in small tables, round tables. We call them transformational tables. Tables like this, where you get just a few people around the table and you begin to teach good values to people. We have found it to be absolutely life-changing. In fact, we have 22 countries in the world right now where the leaders of the country, presidents or prime ministers, have said, John, please come in and talk to us about your values. Now, I say all that because, again, I know who you are, and I know that Life Project is based on values and legacy and pouring into one generation that can pass on to the next generation life-changing values. So now, if you will allow me, I'm going to get really personal. And what I mean by that is my father passed away on July 4th. He was 98 and a half years of age, and he was my lifetime mentor. He's the greatest person that I've ever known. And he has left within me not only great values, but he's left within me an incredible legacy. A couple of days before he passed away, I spent time with him, just the 2 of us. And as he laid in bed, he was unable to respond by this time as he was nearing death. I shared with him, I put on my iPhone, by the way, on my iPhone, I've got a salt shaker and a light bulb, salt and light. Jesus said that we were to be salt and light. Salt makes things better and light makes things brighter. And that's what we do, make things better and brighter for people. So on my iPhone, on July 1st, a few days before my dad passed away, I wrote these words, "Thanks, Dad, I learned these lessons from you." And I thought because you are so involved in legacy and values that I would just pass on. I have 29 of them, by the way. But what I would do is I would write a lesson on my iPhone that my father taught me, and then I would stand up and I would stand beside him and put my hand on his shoulder, and I would read the lesson he taught me, and then I would talk about it. And he not only taught me these lessons, he showed me those lessons. He was a show and tell person. He knew that that you back up your words with your actions. And again, that's how values are transferred. In fact, I make a statement in mentoring that I want to stop here now and just share with you because it's a very important statement. And the statement is this: who mentors you is as important as what they say. Obviously, what they say gives you insight and information and knowledge and wisdom, but the contagiousness of the spirit of mentoring is based on who mentors you. And I have just discovered that that spirit is contagious. And as you are teaching values and leaving a legacy for the next generation, who you are is as important as what you say. You can't not separate the two of them. So, if you would allow me just, for a few minutes today, I would just like to share with you some of the lessons that my father taught me. Lessons that have been life-changing to me, and maybe they'll help you. I hope so. For example, my father taught me how to add value to people. I don't know of anyone that loved people and added value to people more than my dad. I watched him. I watched him care for people, encourage people, lift people, believe in people. In fact, when I graduated from college, as I was getting ready to go into the ministry, I asked my dad to give me some advice. I said, "Dad, help me to get started well." And the advice that he gave me that day was life-changing and has stayed with me throughout all of my years of life and ministry. He said, "John, if you really want to be successful, if you really want to help people, and you really want to make a difference," he said, "do 3 things every day." He said, "value people, believe in people, and unconditionally love people." He said, if you'll do those 3 things, people will be drawn to you. And he taught me that day that when you increase people's lives, they're drawn to you. If you decrease their lives, they fall away from you. And he said, when you value people, believe in people, and unconditionally love them, he said, what you're doing is increasing their lives, and they'll be drawn to you. And he said, you'll always have crowds to preach to. You'll always have people to read your books. He said, just trust me, value people, believe in people, and unconditionally love them. That has been my personal grid in everything I do. When I write books, I do that with those 3 thoughts. When I speak, I do that with those 3 thoughts. When I lead, I do that with those 3 thoughts. You see, it was my father who just taught me to add value to people. Every day, there are 5 things that I do. And the 5 things that I'm going to share with you right now, truly, tangibly, definitely add value to others. Let me give them to you. Every day, I value people. What that means is that I look at every person and I place great value in that person. And people will say to me sometimes, well, John, you speak to the masses and you tell everybody you value them, but you don't really know those people. How can you value someone you don't know? And I said, well, that's true. I don't know the person, but I know the creator of that person. God created you in His image, after His likeness. Let me tell you something. The fact that God created you tells you how much He values you. And if God would value you enough to create you and give you a purpose in life, then by all means, I'm going to value you because of who He is and what He's done for you. Now, valuing people is very important, and here's why. If I value you as a person, then I'll look for ways to add value to you. The opposite's also true. If I don't value you as a person, I won't look for ways to add value to you. You see, how I value you is how I view you. And so, I tell leaders all the time, if you ever stop loving your people, stop leading your people. Why? Because when we don't value the people that we lead, we manipulate them. That's always wrong. Manipulating people is to move people for personal advantage. That's never right. And so valuing people is core. It's center to every person adding value to others. I add value to you because I value you. It's just that simple. So every day, I value you. In fact, that's why I'm here with Pastor Jose today. That's why I'm talking with you at Life Project, because I value you. Number 2, every day. Remember, I do these things every day. 1, every day I value people. 2, every day I think of ways of adding value to you. In other words, before I'm with you, I know that I'm going to be meeting you. I look on my schedule every day and I say, okay, well, I'm going to be with Life Project today. And so how can I add value to you? I think about adding value to you before I'm with you. This is very important. It sets me up to do the best to serve and add value to you. I can think of my grandchildren. When a few years ago I was writing a book called Intentional Living, and I was teaching them how to live intentionally, because that's so huge. The most overrated words in the English language are good intentions. Good intentions have never done anything. Nobody's life has ever been changed through good intentions. Their life is changed through good actions. And intentional living is the bridge that takes us from intentions to action. And so I was having dinner with my grandchildren, and I was talking to them about how are you going to add value? How are you intentionally going to do this the next day when you go to school? And my youngest grandchild, James, who was 9 at the time, said, Papa, tomorrow when I go to school, I'm going to open doors for people all day long. I'm going to be a door opener. And he said, I'm not only going to open up doors, he said, Papa, I tell you what else I'm going to do. I want to smile, and I'm going to say, have a good day. So the next evening he called me on the phone and he said, Papa, I had a great day. I said, tell me about it, James. He said, I opened doors for 47 people today. 47 people. He opened doors for them. And he said, I not only opened doors for them, I smiled and I said, have a good day, have a good day. Now, he's 9 years old. He's already understanding how to add value to people. But why did he open that many doors? Why did he smile and say, have a good day? Because he thought ahead of how he was going to add value to people. That is essential. That is key. Don't miss this. This is so important. Every day I value people. Every day I think of ways to add value to people. Thirdly, every day I look for ways to add value to people. Yes, I look for ways. Look for ways to add value to you. Now, this is important. We see things not as they are. We see things as we are. So if I'm a person that looks for ways to add value to people, guess what I'll see? Ways to add value to people. Just as if I'm a person that has no desire to add value to you at all, I won't see ways to add value to you. You see, I see what I'm prepared to see. I see what I am. That's why 2 people can be with you all day, and one person adds value to you. They're a plus in your life, and the other one's a minus. One is looking for ways to add value to people. And by the way, in the area of values and relationships, let me just say this because it's very essential. Every one of us, we're either a plus in people's lives or we're a minus. We're either adding value to people, or to be honest with you, we're kind of probably taking value away from people. So every day, I value people. Think of ways to add value to people. I look for ways to add value to people. Number 4, I do things that add value to you. You see, I become a person of action. It's wonderful to value people. It's wonderful to think of ways and look for ways to add value to people. But the bottom line is, Did I do it? Did I do it? My dad used to tell me the parable of the frogs, where he'd say, John, 5 frogs were on a log, 4 decided to jump off. How many frogs are left? I'd say 1. He'd say, no, 5. But that made no sense at all. I'd say, Dad, you said there were 5 frogs on a log, but 4 decided to jump off. Well, if 4 decided to jump off, there's only 1 left. He said, no, just because you decide to jump doesn't mean that you did. You see, it's the action that makes the change. So every morning, I look at my schedule. I did this morning. I looked at my schedule. I knew I would be in the studio teaching, and I saw that I would be with Pastor Jose and Life Project, and I asked myself a very simple question. How do I add value to you? To you. So in the morning, I look about where I'm going to see and who I'm going to see and when I'm going to see them, and I say, how can I specifically add value to those people? Every evening, I review my day, and I ask, who did I add value to today? And how did I add value to them? I think this is essential. Every day, I value people, think of ways to add value to people, look for ways to add value to people, do things that add value to people. And number 5, every day, I encourage others to add value to people. That's why we're together right now. I have the opportunity to talk to you about values and legacy. But the success of this talk is not what I'm sharing with you. The success of the talk is what you do with what I'm sharing. You taking what I give you and saying, I'm going to do that in my life. I'm going to apply that to my life. You see, all transformation has at its roots application. Our lives aren't changed until we take the action to change those lives. So when we think of Life Project and the heart of Pastor Jose and what he's wanting to accomplish and the good things that you are accomplishing, I congratulate you for those. I just want you to know that values and legacy are essential. And as I look at my list of 29 things that my father taught me, I can tell you without any question, these are values that are now my legacy. I have time. Let me give you, I don't know, maybe another 1 or 2. My father, another lesson that he taught and lived in front of me, was to travel the high road. Now, when we talk about traveling the high road, we're talking about more than the golden rule. You know, the golden rule says, treat others in the way that you want to be treated. That's a good rule. That's a great value. But when you travel the high road, I would say that's not the golden rule. I'd say that's the platinum rule. It's a little higher even than treating others as you want to be treated. The platinum rule basically says, treat others better than you want to be treated. In other words, go the extra mile, turn the extra cheek. This is a major teaching. You see, my father said, take the high road. He also said, not only travel high, but travel far. There's in the Bible, there's the second mile teaching. You know, if somebody asked you to go in Bible times to walk a mile with them, you were obligated as a fellow citizen to do that. But after the mile was over, you weren't obligated to go the second mile. And Jesus said, go the second mile. In other words, do something that's beyond the law or obligation. Give a little extra effort, a little extra care, a little extra time. So my dad, he said, John, walk the second mile, travel far, take the high road, travel high. And the high road is that platinum rule: treat others better than they treat you. I saw my father do that. My father was the president of a college, and he had about 3 board members that were Well, they just gave him a difficult time. In fact, I was in college and I could tell that board meetings sometimes became very difficult because these 3 board members were pretty negative and quite jealous. In fact, 2 of them kind of wanted his job. And so it was a kind of a contentious board. It wasn't one that was building. It was kind of one that was pulling apart. And there were times when they just kind of abused my dad. Just instead of taking high road with him, they took low road. And I watched my father turn the other cheek. I watched my father smile. I watched my father live above all the pettiness of those board members. Now, as a college kid, it really made me mad. In fact, I wanted to go in and set them straight. But my father, wise, filled with the Spirit, filled with the fruit of the Spirit, love, peace, joy, long-suffering. He took the high road. My mom was the librarian at the college, and so I would have a key and I would sneak in late at night when the library, quote, was closed, and a lot of times I would study. One night I was in the library over in the corner studying, and my father came into the library. He didn't know I was there at all, and he kind of went over very close to where I was quietly, kind of hidden, sitting. And he began to pray for the board members. He began to pray for those that had taken advantage of him and just had, quote, done him wrong. And I listened to him as he prayed and asked God to love them and forgive them and asked God to give him a love for them and asked God to help him to take high road. He finished that prayer and he walked out of the library and he didn't know I was there. In fact, it was several years before I ever told him this story. But that night marked my life because I watched my father treat others better than he was treated. I watched my father turn the other cheek. I watched him live out this value. Today, it's ingrained in me. Not because I'm naturally a good person. It's ingrained in me because I saw it in my father.
Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results.